No, we got the San Francisco 49ers versus the New Orleans Saints. Interesting game to me because the Saints get back Michael Thomas and absolutely destroyed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Destroyed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The anomaly of the year, that was the...
I've been saying this about New Orleans is, I think we might have even talked about this last week. It's like the Saints lose on that Monday Night Football early in the season. Michael Thomas not play. They lose to the Raiders, and everybody's like, ugh. But then I looked at last week, and I'm doing the power rankings, and New Orleans is 5-2, and I'm like, wait a second. Like, everybody, 5-2, and they haven't had their best players. They've had a lot of injuries. Okay, maybe they're pretty good because they haven't been at full strength. It was almost like the 49ers last year. I think they started undefeated, and they were missing half their team.
It makes me think of Stephon Diggs leaving Minnesota, and then all of a sudden they can't really have the same offense. It's just like this one piece is missing, and maybe that's what was happening in New Orleans. Maybe just that one special piece that makes the whole thing go, the straw that stirs the drink, and they didn't have him, and now he's back, and it was like a different unit, man.
Honestly, that Vegas Monday Night Football game, I remember watching it and thinking, like, gosh, Drew Brees looks like on 3rd and 5s, Drew Brees looks like he's trying to fight back tears. Because where does he go on 3rd and 5? He goes to Michael Thomas. Every single, it's like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I mean, it's just
or even just the threat of Michael Thomas. That he doesn't necessarily have to go there, but the fact that he's out there changes everything. Right? But boy, did they had the energy. They were in sync. They were themselves again.
Mm-hmm.
And like Taysom Hill comes in and rips one off, and that guy's all fired up, man. And I know that we haven't been the biggest fans of taking out Drew Brees and putting in Taysom Hill. But I will say this: there is something about putting that guy in there, and he makes some awesome gain of 13 with his feet, right? That probably raises the energy of the club as a whole.
Yeah,
and that's valuable.
I don't mind it. When I really hate it is when it's 2nd and goal or basically a goal situation. And then if you're going to do it, then don't leave Drew Brees on the field. The whole, let's split Drew Brees out and have him line up as a wide receiver.
Yes, why do that?
Why do that? Because then you're playing 10 on 11. Right, because Drew Brees is not going out on a route. He's not.
Yeah, and nobody thinks he is. And then the only threat there would be a backwards lateral to Brees in which he throws.
You're not going to do that on the goal line. Give me a break.
But you're not going to do that, right?
Yeah. So that to me is just
with that too.
That's Sean Payton drives me nuts with that stuff, and every offensive coordinator does that. If you're going to do it, I always say this, like Tim Tebow and the Saints actually tried to sign Tim Tebow before they got Taysom Hill for this role, and I've said this for years. If Tim Tebow, world's greatest Christian who somehow can't get over his ego and his pride, if he could just be the 1-yard guy. Get him in there and get you 1 yard on
that could have been him.
That could have been him.
Done that. As long as a coach was willing to have him on board for something like that. But I'm sure there would have been some.
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is look, if you're going to take Drew Brees out, that's a question mark. But if you're going to take him out and split him out at wide receiver and basically,
that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. 100%. So take him out. Let you do the run pass option. Fine. Do it. I don't love it. Do it.
Threat out there. I don't understand what that would. Right?
No.
What would that do to the defense?
No. I mean, if you're, it's just it's dumb.
It's asinine.
It is stupid. But anyway, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that. But getting back to the Saints, I think coming in there, everybody's talking about the Bucs. They're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Oh, Brady, the only reason the Saints won that first game is because Brady was rusty, and not rusty, but didn't have the chemistry with the receivers in week 1. Yada. I think the Saints, first of all, the Saints defensive backfield, who I think are among the best defensive backfield in football when they feel like it. That's my thing with the Saints is they're never up, but when they're up, you can't complete a pass on them, and their run defense is always strong.
That was the point I was trying to make. They played against Tampa with this energy that I hadn't seen from them, man. They were tuned up, man. And Tampa had the opposite going. What was their deal? Can we talk about what were they, hungover, or what was the problem?
I don't know, man. I love it in the press, though. Arians always skewers Tom Brady in the press after a game like that.
He does. He always pokes him.
The players' coach is skewering Tom Brady. Tom Brady, what do we hear for years from Tom Brady is he bristles with Bill Belichick, who skewers him inside team meetings. Arians doesn't do that, but he lets him have it in the press.
He'll come out and go, we had guys open. I don't know what to tell you. It's like a total dig. He keeps doing it.
I know. It's awesome. Antonio Brown, I saw Antonio Brown miss a couple balls, but anyway, I mean, like all credit to the Saints. I mean, they came out. I think they look. This has been consistently the best team in the NFC, and I'm talking about the 49ers were the best team last year. I'm not saying that, but the Saints over the last 5 years, they are the team of the NFC, and I think that everybody's forgotten about them this year when they were 5-2 going into that game, and I think they were just like, okay, we got our team back.
That too. Look,
we're going to remind people.
I called it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I called it completely wrong. I'll admit that. I thought Tampa was going to take them out because I had this feeling that the Saints and their window was over.
Sure.
Right? I just kind of had that feel.
Yeah.
But I could not have been more wrong.
No. Yeah.
About that game, Sean, it's like maybe once a year you beat the crap out of somebody else and everything goes your way. And maybe once a year, you just get boat raced and nothing goes your way.
Right.
Maybe it's nothing more than that, and you throw the film away and you just move on.
Yeah.
And could it be that, or should we apply more meaning to what happened out there?
Well, I think, because we say this about that Tampa Bay-Green Bay game, we say, just throw the tape away. If they play again, it'll be close. But I think we kind of said the same thing about Green Bay, San Francisco last year after the week, because you were actually at my house. You traveled up to Chicago. We watched that game. And I thought that San Francisco would win that game and safely cover, but I thought it was going to be a closer game. Then they played in the NFC Championship, and it wasn't a contest as we.
Well, so there was meaning to that then, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It did mean something.
I believe that the Saints, if they play the Bucs in the playoffs, and I think both of these teams will safely be in the playoffs, if that's a matchup, I think the Bucs match up poorly against Seattle the New Orleans, because New Orleans' run defense is always good, and the defensive backs, and I say this, when they feel like playing, they're probably among the top 5 defensive backfields in the league, but they just aren't always up. But they get up for Tampa Bay.
Well, that's right. We were talking about division games, man. They're their own animal, and if you can't get up for that, then something's wrong. But
meanwhile,
boy, were they up.
This game last year, it was I think, was it both teams were in the 50s or the high 40s, the Saints versus the 49ers. One of the best games of the season for sure. And it's just San Francisco, in addition to having everybody injured, and I was 10 of their top 11 players were out last week against Green Bay. What the heck is going to happen? Now, I think they'll get a lot of these guys back from the COVID list, but...
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Not only was it injuries, but there was a few COVID guys as well.
It's 5.
Wasn't even something 16 starters didn't play from the year before against Green Bay.
It's unbelievable.
Look, Green Bay won, and they should have won, right?
They should have.
They should have, and they won exactly the way they should have, right?
Yep.
You can't give them any real props for that.
What I'm really looking forward to, San Francisco, is next year everybody's going to remember these struggles and completely forget that they're missing 2/3 of their starting roster.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be able to bet San Francisco and make a lot of money next year.
Okay, that's a possibility. Now let's talk about whether or not they're going to keep Jimmy G.
I saw a mock draft and they took a quarterback in the mock draft. Who knows what'll happen, but this offseason, what are they going to do? They're going to sign Dak Prescott for $35 million. I don't know what you do. If I'm San Francisco, you have Jimmy G towards a pretty nice contract.
I think they should keep him. I do. You could do a heck of a lot worse, but he can't stay on the field.
Yeah, it is a problem.
Right?
You're right.
Didn't he miss all? Was it last year he missed? No, it was the year before, right?
Yeah, he missed a lot of games the year before.
He missed 14 games.
And Mullins was the starter there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is the second or third instance where he's not on the field.
Yeah.
And the saying goes, staying healthy is also a skill. Some guys can do it and some guys can't. And maybe he's that.
Another thing, when the Shanahans were in Washington and when I was still really following that franchise, something I noticed is that all of their key players were always injured in Washington. It was all of their offensive line would get injured, their skill players and all that stuff. Well, now Shanahan's over in San Francisco. I'm curious to see if they
Is there
brought some
something to
athletic trainers over there. Like, are they not seriously? Are they not stretching
Right,
well
right.
enough?
Well, I'd like to think that a professional
You would think.
organization would have that locked down. Like that, right?
You would
Like,
think. But do they have a
yeah, you
group of
would
guys that
think.
they've always liked? I'm curious because this is the second year in a
Well,
row
maybe
now that
that's the
San
case,
Francisco has
right?
lost key players.
It is odd. Are they not being prepped and cared for like they should? And I think though that if that was the case, players would come out because obviously players would know what's expected,
Yeah.
wouldn't they? Having been on other teams and knowing what the deal is, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're not getting that. I'd like to think, but who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it's to me it's something I'm tracking. If this happens a third year in a row, are you calling it just a fluke, or is this just like, okay, why are they the ones that are always popping their hamstrings and
Well,
tearing their
that's another
ligaments?
that's another excellent point. If it's the third year in a row, then
Yeah,
or
I mean,
at least 2 out of 3, something like that. Because last year, no, they were
last year was
sniffing the
bad. They
best.
didn't have,
Yeah,
and
right,
this year
right.
is bad. So if it happens again next year, I don't know.
Or do
But
these things just come around? I don't know.
so anyway, let me hit you with the line here, man. San Francisco, Bovada has it +7 at the New Orleans Saints. Who do you got?
San Francisco +7 at Saints. Well, I don't know how many of those starters are coming back,
Yeah,
but I imagine not half of them.
yeah,
You know, maybe 2 or 3. I would guess. Who knows? So Saints have to be Saints.
yeah. I think I have to take the Saints here as well, just because it's Nick Mullins versus Drew Brees, and they have their players back.
Right,
I think San
right.
Francisco will play better than people think, but 7 points, Mullins hasn't played lights out exactly, everybody. I mean, he laid an egg versus Philadelphia.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not,
San Francisco will play better than people think,
yeah,
and I think New Orleans won't play as good as they did
right,
last week.
right.
However, I still think they can manage to win by 10.
Yeah, agreed.
Easy,
I agree.
easy.
Agreed. Next game on the list.